On the 3rd of August 2024, Zheng Qinwen stood on the red clay of Roland Garros with an Olympic gold medal hanging around her neck. She was 21 years old. She had just given China its first ever Olympic singles gold in tennis. 2 days before that, on the same court, she had beaten Iga Swiatek on clay, the surface where Swiatek almost never loses. 7 months earlier, she had walked out for a Grand Slam final in Melbourne. Career high ranking. No. 4 inches the world. 5 WTA titles. 23 years old and already the biggest name in Asian tennis. Now here is Tuesday, the 28th of July 2026. Rock Creek Park, Washington, D.C. A WTA 500 event. First round. Round of 32. Zheng Qinwen walks out to play a match at 8 inches the evening. Ranked no. 123 inches the world. And she is not even in this tournament on her ranking. She got in on a wild card. Now turn the camera around. Across the net there is a 21-year-old from the Philippines. Ranked number 29, the highest of her career. 3 weeks ago, she became the first Filipino in the entire Open era to reach the 4th round of a Grand Slam. Before that, she won her first WTA title on grass in Birmingham. Before that, a semi-final in Berlin. And these two have met before. September 2023. Asian Games, Hangzhou. Semi-final. Zheng took the first set 6-1 against a teenager who could not hold serve. Zheng went on to win gold. Alex Eala went home with bronze and a scoreline that said something very clear about the distance between them. That distance was 4 inches the world versus outside 200. 2.5 years later, it is 29 versus 123. So the question is not what happened to Zheng Qinwen. Everybody wants that to be the story. Because it is the easy story. Injury, surgery, ranking collapse, sad ending. Roll credits. That story is wrong. Or at least it is only half of one, and it is the boring half. Because the gap between these two careers did not close because one of them fell. It closed because of something that started in a very specific match, in a very specific moment, that almost nobody watching in Washington tonight will remember. But to understand what is really happening this week, we have to go back to the night Alex Eala lost to her. Alex Eala was 13 when she got on a plane in Manila and did not come back. Not for a tournament. Not for a training block. To live. Rafa Nadal Academy. Mallorca. Spain. 6,000 miles and 7 time zones from her mother. From her brother. From every friend she had. 13 years old. Sharing a room with kids who spoke Spanish. Learning to hit a tennis ball on a surface she had barely played on. Understand what she was leaving into. The Philippines is a country of 115 million people. Before Alex Eala, it had never produced a single top 100 WTA player. Not one. In the entire Open era. 57 years. There was no path. There was no former champion to call for advice. There was no national tennis system waiting to catch her if it went wrong. There was basketball, there was boxing, and there was a tennis court somewhere in Manila with a girl on it that people had already decided was going to be the first. That is the part people miss. She was not a prospect. She was a promise. Before she had won anything on tour, before she had played a single WTA main draw, she was already carrying the expectations of a nation that had waited half a century for someone. Every match she played was reported at home like a national event. Every loss was a national conversation. And the results, in the beginning, were the kind that do not make headlines. Junior Grand Slam titles came. Yes. Girls doubles at the Australian Open in 2020. Girls doubles at the French Open in 2021. Then in 2022, she won the Junior US Open singles title. The first Filipino ever to win a junior slam in singles. And then she graduated into the professional tour, and the tour did what the tour does to everybody. ITF tournaments. W15S and W25S and W60S. Empty courts in places nobody covers. Playing for a few $100s in prize money in a week where the flights and the coaching and the hotel cost more than she could win. Losing in the first round to players ranked 400 inches the world who nobody in Manila had ever heard of. Grinding a ranking from 700 to 400 to 300, one 3-set match at a time, in stadiums with 14 people in them. Meanwhile, at home, she was on billboards. That is a very specific kind of pressure, and almost no athlete gets to feel it. You are famous before you are good. Every result gets measured against a story that was written about you before you had any say in it. And here's the thing that makes this comparison worth 20 minutes of your life. On the other side of the world, at almost exactly the same time, there was another girl carrying almost exactly the same weight. Zheng Qinwen grew up in Xi'an, in Hubei province, in central China. Her father put everything into her tennis. The family moved for it. When she was a kid, she watched Li Na, from the same province, win Grand Slams and become the most famous athlete in China. And she decided that was the ceiling she was aiming at. She was not just trying to be a great player. She was trying to be the next one. For 1.4 billion people. 2 girls. 2 continents. Same job description. Be the first, or be the next, and do it in front of everybody. If that idea is landing with you right now, if you have ever had to carry something that was decided about you before you were ready, then stay with me here, because the next 12 minutes are going to explain the exact moment this stopped being a story about pressure and became a story about power. And if you want more of these, the ones where we actually take the story apart instead of reading you a stat sheet, subscribing takes 2 seconds, and it means the next one finds you. Because in September of 2023, at 19 years old, that promise walked onto a court in Hangzhou and ran straight into Zheng Qinwen. Hangzhou, September 2023. Asian Games semifinal. Eala is 19. She is ranked outside the top 200. Zheng is already a top 25 player with a Grand Slam quarterfinal behind her, 3 months away from a Grand Slam final. 11 months away from an Olympic gold medal. The first set lasted about half an hour. 6-1. And that scoreline told a story that every single person watching in the Philippines understood immediately, even if nobody wanted to say it out loud. This was not a bad day. This was a demonstration. Zheng was hitting a heavier ball, moving better, serving bigger, and doing all of it without appearing to try very hard. It was the tennis version of being told you are in the wrong room. Then something happened in the second set. Eala started holding. Then she started breaking. She dragged that set all the way to a tiebreak against a player who was about to become the 4th best player on earth, and she won it. 7-6. 1 set each. Bronze medal match becomes gold medal match. Just like that. So here is the question, and I want you to actually sit with it. How do you lose a set 6-1, and then push the exact same player to a tiebreak 20 minutes later? That is not a fluke. Nobody flukes a tiebreak against a top 25 player. What that second set proved is that the ability was already in there. On any given point, on any given game, Eala could match her. The shots existed. What did not exist yet was the ability to do it for 2 hours straight. Third set, 6-3. Zheng closed it out. Zheng went on to win the gold medal. Eala went home with bronze in singles and bronze in doubles, which in any other country is a career highlight, and in a country waiting 57 years for a first, is a slightly nicer version of not enough. And that gap, the one between having the shots and being able to hold them, is the cruelest gap in professional sport. Because you cannot fix it with talent. You already have the talent. That is the whole problem. You have to fix it with time, and with fitness, and with 100 matches nobody watches, and there is no guarantee at the end of it. Plenty of players sit in that gap for their entire careers, and retire at 28 still being described as talented. Now watch what happened next, because this is where it gets genuinely painful. Zheng Qinwen left Hangzhou and went vertical. January 2024. Australian Open Final. She loses to Aryna Sabalenka. 6-3, 6-2. But she is 21 years old and she is in a Grand Slam final. August 2024. Paris. She beats Swiatek on clay in the semi-final, beats Donna Vekic in the final, and wins the Olympic gold medal for China. 5 WTA titles. Career high of number 4 inches the world. Endorsements everywhere. The face of tennis in Asia. And Alex Eala went back to the small tournaments. Back to ITF events. Back to qualifying draws. Back to 3-set matches on outside courts against players ranked in the 200s. For ranking points that moved her about 2 spots at a time. She stayed stuck outside the top 130 for most of 2024. No WTA main draw run that changed anything. No signature win. Nothing that could be turned into a headline that was not just hope again. And the mood at home started to shift. This is the part of the story nobody makes videos about, so let me be honest about it. The conversation turned. Not from everyone, but loudly enough. The word that started attaching itself to her was hype. Talented, but not there yet. Great junior. And everybody knows what happens to great juniors. Marketed better than she performed. A story a tennis-starved country needed so badly that it had inflated a good player into a phenomenon. And when you are 19 and 20, and every ranking update gets discussed on national television, that conversation does not stay outside. It gets in. So here is the second question. What happens to a national hope that stops progressing? Usually, it becomes a cautionary tale. Every country has one. The kid who was going to be the first, who got to 130 inches the world, who played the tour for 6 years, who is remembered fondly and vaguely, who ends up coaching juniors and doing commentary, and getting introduced at events as the player who almost broke through. That is the standard ending. That is by far the most likely ending. And by late 2024, if you were looking at the two names from that Hangzhou semifinal, the numbers said the story was already written. Zheng Qinwen. No 4 inches the world. Olympic champion. Grand Slam finalist. Alex Eala. Outside the top 130. No WTA title. No slam main draw win. Not a rivalry. Not even a comparison. Two players who happened to share a court once, headed to two completely different places. Which is exactly why nobody, and I mean nobody, saw what happened 18 months later in Miami. March 2025. Alex Eala is in the main draw on a wildcard. Ranked 140th in the world. A wildcard at a WTA 1000 is usually a gift with an expiration date on it, and the date is normally the first Tuesday. Round 1. She beats Katie Volinets. Round 2. Jelena Ostapenko. A Grand Slam champion. A player who hits the ball as hard as anyone on tour and takes the racket out of your hands when she is on. Eala beats her. Round 3. Madison Keys. And you have to understand where Keys was in that exact moment. 9 weeks earlier, she had lifted the Australian Open trophy in Melbourne. She was the reigning Grand Slam champion, playing the best tennis of her life, and she was a top 5 player. Eala beats her too. And then Iga Swiatek walks on court. 5-time Grand Slam champion. World number 2. The most relentless baseline player of her generation. And this is the match I want to slow all the way down, because everything in this story turns on it. Here is the trap Swiatek sets for everybody. She wants the rally. She wants 9 shots, 12 shots, 20 shots, because she moves better than you and her ball is heavier than yours. And by shot, 15, you are the one hitting from behind the baseline while she is standing on it. Almost nobody beats Swiatek in a rally war. That is the entire architecture of her career. So Eala did not have a rally war with her. She is left-handed, which sounds like a small detail, and is not. A left-handed serve into the ad court. Wide. Pulls a right-hander off the court in a direction they have practiced against maybe 1/10 as often. On every big point, every break point, every deuce. That serve went to the same place, and it dragged Swiatek out wide over and over again, opening the whole court behind her. Then the slice. Low, skidding, carved cross-court. Swiatek is a player who loves the ball at hip height, where she can crush it. Eala kept giving it to her at ankle height, kept making her bend, kept taking away the speed she needed to generate her own. And she shortened the points. 2 shots, 3 shots, 4 shots, decision made. She was not out rallying the best rallier alive. She was refusing to let the rally exist. Eala won that match. She beat Iga Swiatek at a WTA 1000 and reached the semifinal in Miami as the 140th ranked player in the world. Now go back to Hangzhou with me for a second, because I have been holding something. Remember that second set? The one where a 19-year-old lost the first set 6-1 and then somehow dragged Zheng Qinwen to a tiebreak and won it? Everyone filed that away as a nice moment in a losing effort. A flash. A consolation. It was not a flash. It was a draft. Everything that beat Swiatek in Miami was already visible in that one set in 2023. The serve pattern. The refusal to trade from the baseline. The ability to lift her level exactly when the score got tight. What she was missing in Hangzhou was never the shots. It was the ability to hold that level for 2 hours instead of 40 minutes. And that is the reframe. And it is the whole video. Miami was not a breakthrough. Nothing broke. Miami was the same player, finally able to sustain what she could already do in bursts. The gap that looked impossible in Fun 3. The one I told you nobody fixes with talent. She fixed the only way it can be fixed. With 18 months of matches nobody watched. If that just landed for you, tell me in the comments. Which of those two moments do you think was actually the harder one? The Swiatek win, or that second set in Hangzhou when she had absolutely no reason to believe she belonged out there? I read every one of these, and that answer says a lot about how you watch tennis. Because here is the mirror. While Eala was learning to sustain her level, Zheng Qinwen was losing the ability to sustain hers. Not mentally, physically. The right elbow that produced one of the biggest serves in women's tennis started to fail, and eventually it required surgery. And surgery on a serving arm costs you months you cannot get back. She had peaked at number 4 inches the world. Then came the layoff. Then a first-round exit at the French Open that dropped her out of the top 100. Then a first-round exit at Wimbledon. 2 lines. One climbing because it finally learned to hold. One falling because it physically could not. They crossed somewhere in the middle of 2025. And almost nobody noticed the exact moment it happened. Miami proved she could do it once. What happened this summer proved something much more dangerous. That she could do it on purpose. Here is the run. Birmingham, June 2026. Her first WTA title. Berlin, a semifinal. Wimbledon, the 4th round, the first Filipino in the Open era to get there. 3 tournaments one summer. Career high ranking of number 29 inches the world. Now, here is why that run is stranger than it looks. Alex Eala learned tennis at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. Clay. Slow, high-bouncing, long rallies. The surface where points get built over 8 and 10 shots. If you had asked anyone which surface would be her worst, grass was the obvious answer. Grass is fast, low, and unforgiving. The ball skids. There is no time. Clay court juniors historically go to grass and disappear for years. She did not disappear. She won a title on it. And once you see why, you cannot unsee it. Go back to the Swiatek match. What beat Swiatek was a left-handed serve into the ad court and a low skidding slice that never gave her a ball above hip height. Now put those 2 shots on grass. A left-handed slice serve on a fast, low surface does not just pull you wide. It stays under your knees. A carved backhand slice on grass barely comes up at all. The shots that made her dangerous in Miami are the exact shots grass amplifies. She did not get lucky on grass. She walked onto the surface that pays the highest return on the game she already had. That is the pattern nobody put together during the grass season. Everybody covered it as a breakout. It was not a breakout. It was a player arriving on the surface her game was built for, with the endurance she spent 18 months building. Then Wimbledon. Round of 16. First Filipino ever. She loses to Jasmine Paolini, a Wimbledon finalist, and she leaves with something more valuable than a result. She leaves with proof that the level travels. Now, let me give you the thing almost nobody is talking about this week, and it is the reason this DC first round matters more than a first round should. Ranking points. For the entire North American hard court swing, Alex Eala has 70 points to defend. 70. That is it. All of it came from reaching the second round of the 2025 US Open. Plus almost nothing else. Because last summer she barely had a hard court season worth defending. Meanwhile, she has already been handed a first-round bye in Toronto, which guarantees her 10 points before she hits a ball. Do you understand what that means? It means that mathematically, Alex Eala is one of the freest players in the top 50 this summer. Every single match she wins from here is a net gain. There is no defense. There is no downside. Toronto, Cincinnati, the US Open, all of it is upside only. Most players ranked around her are walking into these 6 weeks trying not to lose points they earned a year ago. She is walking in with an empty ledger and a game that just won a title. Now put Zheng Qinwen on the other side of that. Zheng is in this tournament on a wild card, at number 123, coming back from elbow surgery, with a career high of number 4 sitting behind her like a debt. She is not playing to gain. She is playing to reclaim. Every match is measured against who she used to be, and she knows exactly what that number was. That is the real matchup in Washington tonight. Not gold medal versus rising star. It is a player with nothing to lose against a player with everything to get back, which are two completely opposite kinds of pressure, and only one of them is comfortable. And it does not stop with Zheng. Look at what is sitting in that draw if Eala gets through. Elina Svitolina, Naomi Osaka, Sofia Kenin, Emma Navarro, Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion, herself of Filipino descent, seeded 7th, Jessica Pegula, the player who ended the Miami run. This is the hardest possible way to start a hard court season. It is also, if you have been paying attention for the last 15 minutes, exactly the kind of draw that stopped being a problem for her about 18 months ago. So when these two walk out in Washington, it is not really a first round. It is a checkpoint on something much bigger than either of them. At the start of this video, I told you the easy story was wrong. The easy story is that Zheng Qinwen fell, and Alex Eala happened to be standing there when she landed. Injury, surgery, ranking collapse. A rising star handed a gift in a first-round draw. Clean. Simple. Wrong. Here is what actually closed that gap. It closed in a second set in Hangzhou in September 2023, when a 19-year-old who had just been beaten 6-1 refused to accept what that scoreline told her. Everybody watching filed that set away as a nice moment in a loss. It was not a moment. It was the blueprint. The left-handed serve out wide, the low slice, the refusal to trade from the baseline, the ability to lift when the score got tight. All of it was already there. And then she spent 18 months in empty stadiums building the one thing she was missing, which was the endurance to hold that level for 2 hours instead of 40 minutes. Miami was not a breakthrough. Birmingham was not a surprise. Wimbledon was not luck. Those were withdrawals from an account she had been paying into since the night she lost to Zheng Qinwen. That is the answer. The lines crossed because one of them worked, not because the other one broke. Now zoom out, because there is a bigger version of this. In 2011, a woman from Hubei province won the French Open and changed what an entire continent believed was possible. Li Na kicked a door open. Zheng Qinwen, from the same province, walked through it and came back with an Olympic gold medal. And tonight, across the net, there is a 21-year-old from a country where that door never existed. No champion before her. No path. No system. Just a kid on a plane at 13 and 115 million people hoping. Look at what is around this match. The international media covering the D.C. Open this week is the largest in years, and it is not because of the seeds. Her matches are among the most attended of the tournament. The crowd is Filipino, and it is also not only Filipino. It is people from across the Asian tennis diaspora who came to see the version of themselves that got through. Eala has said it plainly. Representation is powerful. The people who show up for her see a part of themselves in her. And she knows exactly who she carries when she walks on court. And let me be clear about one thing before I stop. There is no villain here. Zheng Qinwen is 23 years old with an Olympic gold medal, 5 WTA titles, a Grand Slam final, and an elbow that is still learning to trust itself. She is not finished. She is mid-chapter, and comeback chapters are usually the best ones an athlete ever writes. 2 lines crossed in Washington. Lines that cross do not cancel each other out. They keep going. So which is this? A torch being passed from one generation of Asian tennis to the next, or 2 careers that simply intersected on the way to somewhere completely different? Zheng is 23. Eala is 21. Neither one has played her best tennis yet. I am following all of it. Toronto, Cincinnati, the US Open. Both of these careers, every step. If you want the answer to that question the moment it arrives, subscribe, and it will find you.